Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, back from the brink. So, we now have a deal according to President Trump. As you know, yesterday, actually in the morning, he threatened to dramatically escalate and expand the bombing campaign against the Iranian regime, frustrated at the negotiations being stalled, hitting apparently a dead end. President Trump said he had enough, and he had already done 2 nights of bombing. He now said, get ready, because we are going to unleash fire and fury. Essentially, he vowed it was going to be Operation Epic Fury Part 2, a massive bombing airstrikes campaign that he said would knock the regime on its back. He then mentioned as well that he was also tired of the stalemate. He wanted to break through that stalemate, and that he now had a plan to invade and take over Karg Island, which is the key oil economic hub of the entire Iranian regime. 90% of their oil is exported through Karg Island. Trump said he had given the military the green light to launch an invasion, an amphibious landing, and that the United States now was going to seize not just Karg, but all of Iran's oil and gas infrastructure, like we have recently done in Venezuela. Now, whether the president was just bluffing, whether the president was using this as leverage to force the Iranian regime back to the negotiating table and this time to finally sign a deal, or in fact he was going to do it, and the Iranians realizing we're going to take a beating from the air again, and we may even now lose our precious oil infrastructure, especially our pivotal economic hub, Karg Island. Whatever the reason, President Trump, maybe about 4 or 5 hours after he issued those threats, reversed himself and said he has called off all of the airstrikes, all of the bombing, and that we will not be invading Karg Island, but instead there could be a signing ceremony in 2 to 3 days, maybe as early as this weekend, and that he will be sending J.D. Vance to sign on behalf of the United States. Listen now to President Trump, saying he spoke to the highest levels of the Iranian leadership. They have agreed to a deal, and all that remains is to finalize the details. Roll cut 2, Mike.
We just made a great settlement of the war with Iran, and we're going to be subject to finalization of documents, which should get done over the next few days. We'll probably have a signing maybe in Europe, and it's a great thing. Stock market's up 1,000 points. That means they like the deal. See, that means they like, if the market goes down, that means they don't like the deal. But it's been up, oil's dropped. Oil will start coming down to, I think, even lower than it was before. I said I was in Iowa. It was $1.85 a gallon. And I don't know if I'm going to get there, but we're going to get pretty close. It's going to come down, and when oil comes down, everything else comes down. And most importantly, we have a deal that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, which was the whole purpose of what we had to go through to get this. So it was a big, very big thing.
So apparently what they are on the verge of potentially signing is, it's really not a deal, to be accurate, is what's called a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, in which Iran will now say on a piece of paper in this memorandum that they will never acquire a nuclear weapon. They will never try to develop a nuclear weapon or purchase or buy a nuclear weapon. And Trump says for him, that is the entire ball game right there. Listen now to President Trump saying, I spoke with the top negotiators. I spoke with the top people in Iran. There were a lot of other countries involved. Pakistan was involved. Qatar was involved. Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. Many other countries were responsible for this deal. They are going to put pressure on Iran to make sure that they implement it and that they follow through on their promises. And he says, we are on the cusp now of a 60-day permanent ceasefire in which we will then start negotiations over Iran's nuclear program. Roll cut 2A, Mike.
We have a signing soon, and the documents are in pretty final shape, so we'll see. We'll see. Very good. Should be done, and should be done pretty quickly. They want it every bit as much as everybody else wants it. And I think a lot of good relationships can ensue from this. I just spoke with the leaders of many of the countries that were mentioned in the release. I just spoke to Bibi. I spoke to the great heads of nations, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, and others. And we're going to be talking to Turkey. President Erdogan is great.
Now, there are two aspects to this deal or memorandum of understanding that are for Trump absolutely all important. Number one is the commitment by Iran to never have or purchase a nuclear weapon. Number one. Number two, the moment the deal or memorandum is signed, the Iranians have now pledged to fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz and thereby end their blockade. Trump then said, once the deal is signed, Iran opens up the strait, then we, the United States, will lift our naval blockade on all of the Iranian ports and all of their oil exports so they can start selling oil to the international market and start getting other ships and vessels coming in because the Iranian economy is in serious trouble. The blockade is costing Iran $500 million a day. They're running out of food. They're running out of basic staples. Their economy now is starting to flatline, and so they will get some economic relief because our blockade will be lifted as Iran will then reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And so then we will have 60 days from that point on to negotiate the enrichment program, their stockpile, their funding of terrorism. This will then trigger a 60-day negotiation. Listen to President Trump. It looks like they want to sign this in Switzerland, but the actual location is still being discussed. Could be Pakistan, could be Turkey. There are some other places, but he says we're going to do a signing ceremony, and the moment that document is signed, the Strait of Hormuz will be reopened, hopefully by this weekend. Roll cut 2B, Mike.
The strait will officially open as soon as we sign, which could be soon, very soon, maybe over the weekend, in Europe. I won't be able to be there, but JD will be there, Vice President, and some of the people. Steve Woodcock did a great job. Jared.
So the negotiating team and JD are most likely going to sign this memorandum of understanding. Now, just very quickly, because I want to get your reaction, 617-266-6868. The Iranians have come out and said they haven't concluded anything. They haven't reached a final decision on anything. Apparently now, the supreme leader, the son of the Ayatollah that was killed, Mojtaba Khamenei, has not made up his mind. In fact, apparently he's now under pressure from the hardline Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, who really control him to turn down this deal. So we're going to see what's going to happen. But Iran has said officially nothing has been concluded. And so the question is, and I think this is the 38th time, the New York Post says this is now the 38th time President Trump has said we are on the verge of a deal, we're a couple days away from a deal, and yet at the last moment it doesn't happen. Is this finally a deal? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. A couple of quick points, and then I want to go right to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. Mike and I were just talking about this off air, and Mike was telling me, Jeff, I don't trust the Iranians as far as I can throw them. They're just stringing Trump along. I don't think you're ever going to see a deal. And to me, I look at this, and you may disagree, you may agree, I'm just giving you my honest opinion. The Iranians were looking at another night of absolutely devastating airstrikes where they were going to get pounded all across southern Iran, all across the Strait of Hormuz, many of their military installations and targets throughout the country, and they wanted to avoid the massive pain of essentially Operation Epic Fury 2.0. And they clearly fear a potential invasion of Karg Island. And so to head off the resumption of the massive bombing campaign and the potential invasion of Karg, which would, just cripple them economically. Yes, Mr. President, we agree. We're going to sign the deal. We agree, We have a deal. Just one last thing, Mr. President. Just one more thing. Ayatollah, you need to, give final approval. So once Ayatollah give final approval, we have deal. No problem, Mr. President. And so, in other words, they wanted to avoid the bombing and the potential invasion of Karg at all costs. So they called them up and they said, yeah, we'll sign. But will they? Will they? Or will they just kick the can down the road again, like they have done, 37, 38 times in the past? Now, after a while, and I understand President Trump came out and said, look, I don't want to go to war again. I don't want to bomb them to smithereens. I don't want to potentially, because the invasion of Karg Island, even Trump admits, could cost U.S. casualties. The generals say we can take it, but it's a risk that we could lose American soldiers. And Trump has said publicly, he actually said it yesterday, I don't know if America has the stomach, his words, not mine. America has the stomach to take casualties or heavy casualties if we were to take Karg Island. So he's trying to avoid this. And so if we can get a deal, fine, let's do it the diplomatic route. The problem is they're starting to make him look, how do I say this, bad. There's another way to phrase it. There's only so many times you can say we have a deal before people stop taking you seriously. And they're yanking him. They're yanking him back and forth. They're yanking his chain. They're jerking him around. They keep playing him, or they think they're playing him. And after a while, the president, it's, look, okay, once, twice, 3 times, but now we're approaching 40 times where you say we have a deal, and it turns out we don't have a deal. And so I think this is costing Trump his credibility, both at home and especially abroad. That, I think, is one of the reasons why I'd say just don't say anything until there's an actual deal. Call me when you've actually signed something. Now, number one. Number two, it is to me very obvious, because now this is the line coming out of Iran. So yesterday, we want deal, Mr. President. We want deal. So he calls off the strikes, calls off the potential invasion of Karg. Now the Ayatollah may have an issue here or there. Now there's a sticking point, and the sticking point is they want some money up front. Iran is insisting on what they're calling a quote-unquote sweetener. What's the sweetener? They want at least several $billion in frozen assets to be released by Trump for them to sign this memorandum of understanding to begin negotiating on Iran's nuclear program. And Trump rightly is holding the line, saying, no, 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 no. You don't sign, you get no cash. We're not going to lift any sanctions. We're not going to unfreeze any assets. There's going to be no money until you guys sign. So now they're using this as a potential sticking point. Now, what I don't get is, and you know me, I was a skeptic of this war from the beginning. Why? Because it's going to, I know the mullahs. It's going to turn into a freaking mess. And it's going to consume Trump's presidency. And I'm worried that the high gas prices, the high energy prices, this sort of protracted quagmire is going to hurt him dearly in the midterms. That was my fear from the beginning. So, but I'm just being honest with you like I'm in the confessional. What brought him to the table? The threat of resuming bombing. And maybe even launching an invasion and conquering Karg. The only language these primitive barbarians seem to understand is that of force. That's it. Nothing else. Why not just bomb them into submission? Leave aside taking Karg. Leave aside whether we should launch an invasion and maybe lose U.S. troops in the process. Let's just put that off the table for a second, okay? Just resume a massive bombing campaign. Hit them from the air. Launch tomahawk after tomahawk. Drone after drone. And just pound them and pound them and pound them into submission until they sign an unconditional surrender. And that's, to me, how you break this deadlock. Because I don't have confidence that the Iranians really want to sign a deal. And I think this risks making the president look foolish again. Because if this weekend comes around and then it goes and there's still no deal, okay, I want to ask the best audience in the business. Trump now says we have a deal. Iran, so far, publicly has said nothing final has been concluded. In fact, what's coming out of Iran, it's still early, and it's only coming out from several media outlets. But some of the initial reports are that the so-called supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, is saying he still has a few concerns. There are still a few sticking points that he needs to think over, mull over. They want some money up front to sign this memorandum of understanding. So maybe we quite don't have a deal. We shall see. My question to you, Trump decided to call off the massive bombing campaign and the purported plan to use U.S. troops, ground troops, to land and take Karg Island. And so he was asked by a reporter from ABC, Mr. President, with all due respect, it's been dozens and dozens of times you've said we've got a deal, or we're about to have a deal, or we're days away from a deal. What makes this one different? Listen now to the president's response. Roll cut 3, Mike.
You have said before that Iran and the United States were close to a deal. It has not happened yet. Why are you so convinced that this time is different?
Because they've taken a pounding. They've taken a pounding like very few people could take. And they want to make the deal a lot more than I do. And we could have had it done the other way, I guess, but it would have taken longer. They got hit very hard recently, as you know, and I don't like to have to do things that way, but I felt it was necessary.
So basically he's saying the bombing of the last couple of days, and it's sometimes very intense, combined with the threat of even more bombing and maybe the invasion of Karg, forced them to the diplomatic table, forced them to sign this memorandum of understanding. My question to you, A, do you support Trump calling off the strikes and calling off the attack on Karg in order to potentially now get this deal? Or should Trump have followed through on his promises, his threats, and essentially bomb Iran into submission, into an unconditional surrender? We're not negotiating anymore. We bomb until you cry uncle. Agree, disagree? Do you support this initiative by Trump? And do you think we actually have a deal? 617-266-6868. And I'm sorry, but I've got to say it. Am I the only one that is just sick and tired of we have a deal, we don't have a deal, we have a deal, we don't have a deal? Call me, say, hold a press conference when you've actually got a deal. Not we're about to, we're finalizing it, it's practically there, we're wrapping it up. No. When it's signed on the dotted line, then tell me we have a deal. Because honestly, I'm starting to feel like a ping pong. How many months it's been 2 months now. Every third day there's a deal. And then of course there is no deal. So are you feeling frustrated that we just keep being told over and over again, we're close, but nothing ever happens? 617-266-6868. Lou in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Yeah, how you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you, Lou?
Good, very good. I want to say I agree with Mike. Mike I think is absolutely right on this one. I think you're pretty right on this one too. But I've seen this scenario before, and it happened in the early '70s with the deals they were trying to get with North Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and the North Vietnamese were always dragging everything out. Once we went to the negotiating room, they didn't like the size of the table, so they pulled out. And then they kept pulling out and pulling in and pulling out and pulling in. And it was I've seen it before. It's basically like a rope-a-dope situation that's been set up by the Iranians. And I think it's all done, and this is by speculation, not exactly, but I think a lot of this is being done by the Iranians and in coordination with their pals, the Russians, and their other pals, the Chinese, to basically affect U.S. domestic policy and drag this thing out to affect U.S. domestic policy, which means a Democrat takeover after the midterms and the Democrat communists in alliance with the American jihadists like the Mandamis and stuff, and just to try and wait till they have a more favorable situation in the United States, as they have in many of the Western countries like Britain or France or Germany or these other countries. So I think a lot of it is to have an effect on domestic policy that the Iranians are just pulling in and pulling back and pulling in and pulling back, basically to make us look weak. Now, the thing is, I agree. I think with you and with Mike, I think they need to finish this off, and they need to finish them off. Now, maybe Trump has something up his sleeve about further bombing attacks or how to minimize casualties on Karg Island in case we do have to invade. But I just don't, you get tired. First of all, it is existential. This is an existential war between radical Islam and their communist allies and the West and Western liberalism, Western society. So, I mean, this is at the core of everything. And the mullahs have to be removed. I don't even know how bad the people in Iran have it. I think domestically they're cracking down. I don't think the people don't have any arms there. I think we should have armed the the people in Iran a long time ago for not doing it now, and have them be able to fight back. I think that would be good too. But I do think that dragging it on like this, I don't know. I think maybe it's a ploy to weaken us here in the United States, or weaken the Republicans in the United States, or weaken our resolve or whatever. But I think that's part of their overall plan. I think they are coordinating with other powers as well, including the communists here in the United States and the people who in the United States who on the Democratic side who want to really weaken us as well. But I do think he needs to. I think there has to be some kind of conclusion where they do have to surrender or say enough is enough or no mas, and have to really come to the table on our terms. And I'll say this: if we do take Karg Island and we do take the oil in Karg Island, then look at the scenario. We have the oil from the United States, we have the oil from Venezuela, and then we would have control of the oil from Iran. And there would be, I mean, the oil would be flowing like water around the world.
Oh, yeah. That would be you're right. No, Lou, that would be a fundamental game changer. But to get Karg, Trump knows, would not be a cakewalk. And to grab Iran's oil infrastructure, that's not going to be easy. It's going to require ground troops. And, the Iranians do have at least a million-man army. Some say almost as many as 2 million. So they could throw a lot of bodies at us. I mean, this could lead to a huge war. And that's why Trump said, look, I'd rather do it the easy way than the hard way. So I just want him to sign and agree to certain fundamental red lines that we have, reopen the strait, and no nuclear weapons. That's basically Trump's two key red lines. He thinks he's very close to getting that now. Lou, the problem I have with everything, and of course you may disagree with me, I just don't trust the Iranians. And I don't mean that they're jerking him around and, stringing this along. But even if they do sign, say they sign this, I don't think it's worth the paper it's printed on. Okay, Trump now at the last minute calls off bombing, airstrikes, and maybe even a purported plan to take over Karg Island, saying that the Iranian leadership at the highest levels reached out to him and said, let's make a deal. And according to him, he says they have finalized all of the details, not just the concepts, but pretty much every single detail. They are just waiting now for Iran's official response from their so-called supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, who is, really, I'm not making this up for dramatic effect. He's hiding in a cave. He's so afraid that they're going to kill him. He was badly wounded in a strike, and they have him somewhere in an undisclosed cave where they believe he will not be hit by a bunker buster or by some kind of a missile strike. And so they say it takes time to send a courier, to have him look at it. Then he gives his answer back. So anyway, they're waiting now for the final word, the final approval from the supreme leader himself. But Trump now says we have a deal, and he believes we can even have a signing ceremony. He believes probably in Switzerland this weekend, early next week. J.D. Vance will be representing the United States. And so, my question to you, the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Is President Trump being duped by the Iranians? Meaning, as Mike's point when we were off air, they're not going to sign a deal. They say they're going to sign a deal. They probably told Trump to his face they want to sign the deal. And they wanted to head off the strikes and the bombing and the invasion of Karg. Because, we would hammer them. And so to prevent themselves from taking the mother of all beatings, they said, yeah, we're going to sign. But, Mike says, Jeff, you're not going to see that signature. So do you agree with Mike, essentially? Is President Trump being duped or played along, however you want to put it? by the Iranians. A, yes, they are just stringing him along. They're not serious about a deal. B, they're being forced into a deal because they know Trump is going to hammer him because he bombed them for 2 nights in a row, and they've had enough. A, he's being duped. B, they will sign a deal, most likely by this weekend. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Anthony in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Jeff, the name that comes to mind is Neville Chamberlain. When he got off that plane during the pre-World War II and waved that piece of paper saying, peace in our time, Hitler signed it, he's not going to invade us. And then Hitler invaded them and killed millions of people. Then he signed the non-aggression pact with Russia, and then he went in and killed millions of Russians, okay? These people are not making a deal. They want 60 more days to finalize everything. They're getting closer and closer to the midterms, and I'm a little disappointed in President Trump because my company has been suffering. I wouldn't mind taking a little bit of a hit in the fuel cost.
Anthony?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. You said your company's suffering. You wouldn't mind taking a bit of a hit in the fuel cost, and then it's like you just, like something just dropped. Go ahead.
Yeah, you guys are playing an advertisement right now. It's breaking me up. But
you're kidding.
My fuel costs are about $1,000 to $1,500 a week additional. Now, I don't mind taking a hit. I think it's well worth it to go in and wipe out these people in Iran. But every time President Trump comes out and says he's got a deal, or we wiped out their infrastructure, or we wiped out their missiles, next thing you know, they're sending missiles into Israel. Then they're sending a $500 drone to wipe out $1 million helicopter. I mean, don't say anything until you have a fact, or whoever's telling him what to say is embarrassing the hell out of him. Because this is getting a little ridiculous. These people live in caves for a reason. They need to be bombed back into the Stone Age where they came from. Terrorists only understand terror. They cut a head off of an American, we cut 2 heads off of one of them. That's what they understand. He's being played, and they're pushing it to the midterms. We're going to get smoked, and the Democrats are going to give Iran everything they want.
And if I'm getting too personal, Anthony, please tell me, how long can you hang on as a businessman with these high gas and oil prices?
We can hang on, Jeff, but the point is I'm trying to kind of retire a little bit and turn the company over to my kids. But yet this is my money that comes out every week. I'm not really passing it on to the customer, because then when you start passing it on, then the inflation in our area starts to go through the roof. We're trying to absorb as much as we can. I support President Trump. He's doing the right thing, but geez, just wipe these people out. That's all they understand.
Anthony, I want to ask you a final question. You said that whoever's telling him to just keep coming out and saying we have a deal, that, it's embarrassing President Trump. Yeah, okay, once or twice it happens. But, I'm just going by the New York Post. In a story yesterday, they said, well, they counted how many times Trump has either on social media or in public said, we have a deal, or we're a day away or 2 days away from a deal. They say it's now 38 times since the ceasefire began. 38 times in about 60 days. That's almost like one every 2 days. Is this hurting Trump politically in the sense that it is starting to embarrass him and it's starting to erode his credibility? When the president says we have a deal, the world listens. But it's like, crying the one who cried wolf. You keep saying it, and it doesn't happen. After a while, people stop paying attention. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, and I'm very frustrated with this because stop it. don't tell us anything, because first of all, we don't believe anything from any politician anyway. We don't know what's going on over there. Nobody does but the people over there. Just stop telling us everything. The next time he does something on his website or whatever,
Truth
tell us
Social.
that
It's Truth Social.
Yeah, Truth Social. We have captured the Ayatollah. We have taken Kag Island. We own Iran. We have wiped them all out. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear anything about these BS deals, because you know as well as I do, they are not going to make a deal. And if they sign a piece of paper, you might as well make a paper airplane out of it and fly it into the Hormuz Strait, because it doesn't mean crap.
Bingo. See, that's where I agree everything what you said. Don't get me wrong, Anthony. But that to me is the one I'm saying, okay, fine. Let's say you even get the deal, just for the sake of argument. I don't trust the Ayatollahs. They're not going to hold up their end of the deal. And you know how I know that? When Obama made a deal with them, remember that infamous, JCPOA, whatever it was called, that infamous deal? What do you think they said in that deal? They said, oh, no, we're not going to pursue a nuclear weapon. So Obama was waving it saying, well, the Ayatollahs have said they're not going to pursue a nuclear weapon. They're lying. They're so obviously lying. By the way, Anthony, you may not know this. The previous supreme leader, the one that, was killed on the first, day or two of the bombing, okay, the father of the guy who's now running the country, he issued a fatwa maybe about 10, 15 years ago, a fatwa, okay, a religious edict, saying Iran will never pursue the bomb. And what do you think they've been doing? Pursuing the bomb. Now, that's a freaking fatwa. That's like a religious order. That's like in the Catholic Church, the equivalent of a papal bull. Now, in the Catholic Church, when the Pope issues a papal bull, he says jump, everybody says how high. Look at this. To fool the infidel, they'll even issue a religious edict, a fatwa. And they're like, yeah, we got you, wink, wink. Yeah, that's what we show the dumb infidel. So, their supreme leader said they weren't going to pursue a nuclear weapon. He lied. They told Obama and signed it in an agreement they weren't going to pursue a nuke. They lied. Why would this be any different? So I'm looking at this and I'm like, no, I don't really care for their vague promises. Now, if they're going to say, we're going to take out all of the enriched uranium and we're going to get it all done, say, by this date, and the Americans, we have the right to go in and take it out, okay, then maybe, because there's hard benchmarks in there. It's like your business. Jeff, I'll be over on Friday. We'll arrive at noon. We're going to finish the job by Saturday. Okay. But this is just some vague promise. Well, we're not going to have a nuclear weapon. Well, that means nothing. So I'm with you, Anthony. I don't think any promise from them, any quote-unquote deal or signature, is worth the paper it's written on. I wouldn't wipe my rear end with that piece of paper from the Iranians. Anthony, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Aaron in Nevada. Thanks for holding, Aaron, and welcome.
Jeff, I'm so emotional and so uptight right now. Is it okay if I yell or whatever? Because I got hung up on another show yesterday because I was yelling. If I'm allowed to be a little emotional.
That's okay. Go ahead. Unless my ears start bleeding. You know what I'm saying, Aaron? But go ahead.
All right. Well,
You're angry. I hear you. Let her rip, my friend.
Well, before I go any further, Mike, is it time for a commercial break?
No. Mike's going to behave now. Mike is... Okay, Mike, can... Okay, Mike says he can make it a commercial break if you're looking to be a wise ass. That's what he told me in my ear. Okay, Mike, can we just calm down, Mike? All right. Okay. Aaron is just having a little bit of fun. That's all. He's just poking at you there, Mike. All right, Aaron, you got plenty of time. Go.
Look, Trump and I are both Geminis. You know, we're both great communicators, but as Geminis, we both have the exact same weaknesses. Ann Coulter said this about her biggest criticism about Donald Trump is that he's like a couch. Whoever sits on him last has the biggest impact. I have the exact same weakness. 13 years ago, I lost my life savings due to a sports betting scam because these Italian guys, we got luck of the week, we got luck of the year, we know who's going to win the next Spurs game. They told me what I wanted to hear, gave them my money, lost it all. Trump, that's exactly what the Iranians are doing to him. They're telling him what he wants to hear. Oh, Trump, you wrote out of the deal. You greatest deal maker of all time. Let's make a deal. You're right. I'm the greatest deal maker of all time. I love to make deals. I'm awesome at deals. I guarantee the Ayatollah is saying, I can't believe he fell for that crap. He's falling for it. I don't believe it. He's falling for it. Trump, listen to me and listen to me carefully, bro. Finish the job. In the words of Mortal Kombat, finish them. Finish the Iranians. The number one priority should be getting all those oil tankers out of the Strait of Hormuz. Trump, my casinos are suffering. We had the worst Memorial Day weekend since COVID. We had half my hotel rooms cancel at the casino. Number one reason, $4.70 a gallon gasoline. My tips have plummeted since the Super Bowl. Nobody is coming to Nevada to gamble anymore. And it's gas prices, gas prices, gas prices. We're getting killed out here. Trump should be spending every waking moment, get every ship, every boat out of the Strait of Hormuz. And then once those boats are out, you tell the Iranians, in the words of Willy Wonka, you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. And the other thing I want to mention, this is just constructive criticism of Trump. Trump, I love you, but I need some constructive criticism. I did not send you back to that White House to rename the Kennedy Center after yourself. I did not send you there to go to a Knicks game. I did not send you there to put your face on a $250 bill. I didn't send you there to host a UFC fight. I sent you there to whip the Republicans into shape, to get crap done. It's not too late to win this war right before the 4th of July. How awesome would it be for us to win a war on the 250th birthday of America and then focus like a laser beam on domestic issues from here to November? Trump, they're messing with you. I've fallen for this before. I'm no longer friends with friends of mine anymore because they knew if they say A, B, and C to Aaron and X, Y, and Z, Aaron will do this for you. And then I caught on to the scam. I used to loan money to friends of mine. Oh, Aaron, we'll pay you back. We'll pay you back on this date. And they never paid me back, and I had to cut them off. Trump, I have the same weakness you do, bro. I have the same weakness. If you just say the right words to me, I'm putty in your hands. I know you don't want to go to war. I know I don't want to kill people. You're the commander-in-chief. Sometimes you have to make the decision to kill people. And here's one more thing. We have stealth planes, stealth helicopters, stealth fighter jets. Why are we not using it? We spend billions of dollars in the military-industrial complex, and we're not using it. When?
Aaron, let me ask you, do you think, because this is what I would recommend to the president, and I know the audience or some members of the audience may disagree with me, which is fine, and you can call in. I would say, look, no more deals, no more negotiations, none. I don't care if the Ayatollah agrees, doesn't agree. I'm so tired of this act. We're going to resume bombing. We are going to hit them so hard, they're never going to forget it. We're going to bomb the Strait of Hormuz, all their military installations, all of their air defenses. We are going to wipe them out. And then we are going to decimate every key military target that they have. And we're going to bomb and bomb and bomb until they sign unconditional surrender. Period. There's no negotiation. We give them a piece of paper, and it's called surrender. And here's what you're going to do. All of the enriched uranium you're going to give to us. You're going to dismantle your entire nuclear infrastructure, everything, and it's going to be supervised for the world. And the Strait of Hormuz is going to be permanently reopened, and you're never going to send a freaking penny to Hamas or Hezbollah. In other words, we give them the terms of surrender. Now, if Trump wants to give them a sweetener, as it's called, and say, look, but if you do all this, we want to help you rebuild your country or whatever. We'll release some of your frozen assets so you can rebuild. Okay, fine. I'm not a cruel man. But what I'm saying is we bomb them until they say, hands up, we wave the white flag, we surrender. Agree, disagree?
Completely agree. And I'm going to point this out with Trump. You never should have. The whole point of the ceasefire was to open up the Strait of Hormuz. That was 3 months ago. Iran broke that promise. You drew a red line in the sand. Trump, remember when you used to make fun of Obama? We told ISIS, if you cross this red line, I'm going to get you. And ISIS crossed the red line. Obama did nothing. Jeff, you just said Iran has crossed the red line 38 times. And Trump's not doing anything about it. Follow through. And again, of course, this is more than just embarrassing. No world leader is going to take him seriously. When Trump went to China, what was the first thing Xi Jinping said to him? I want Taiwan. I want Taiwan. Give me Taiwan. And Trump said, why should I give you Taiwan? Well, if you're giving in to all the demands of the Iranians, I figured I'd see if that would work on you. No one's going to take Trump seriously if he keeps caving on the Iranians. Finish the job.
Aaron, have a nice weekend. God bless you, my friend. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, really good text. This is from 781. By the way, you can text the Kuhner Man 70470, 70470. This is from 781. Jeff, if you have ever been to North Africa or the Middle East and you want to buy something at a market, what you realize right away is it's not like shopping in the West. You want to buy a rug. You want to buy vegetables. You want to buy fruits. You want to buy a coffee cup, whatever, a scarf. They haggle and haggle and haggle, and they never stop haggling to the point that you become exasperated and you just walk away or you give them the price that they want. In other words, and 781 is completely right. That's, you go to a Turkish bazaar. It's like this, hold on. I thought we agreed to $20. No. I said 25. I go, you didn't say 25. And it goes on and on and on. And so what happens is, it's not just Americans. They get Europeans, they get Canadians, Australians. That's how they get Westerners. And after a while, you just become exhausted. Again, like Trump, you're like, but I thought we had a deal. But I thought we just had enough. Like, it's been, an hour you're negotiating. I think we've had a deal 15 times. And suddenly you keep changing the terms from just 2 seconds ago. And so what happens is, usually they say, look, I just want the scarf. Here, what do you want? And you end up paying top dollar. Okay, fine. What do you want? He had said 15, but now, you got to pay him 25. They just wear you out and wear you out and wear you out. And the thing about them is, say you walk away. Well, look, to hell with you. They don't care. Like, they don't think the way we think. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, President Trump now says he has canceled all planned airstrikes and the invasion of Karg, and he now says a deal is imminent any moment now. One of the callers, I believe it was Anthony, said this is starting to look like Neville Chamberlain, where he's waving a piece of paper as if Hitler ever honored any piece of paper he signed. To me, it's less Neville Chamberlain, and if I'm to think of something, the person I would think of, Charlie Brown. Really, Charlie Brown. And Iran is Lucy with the football. And, poor Trump just keeps trying to kick it, and always at the last moment, there's Lucy lifting the football, and poor Trump, like Charlie Brown, just falls on his back, trying to kick it, and then he misses, obviously, because she lifts the football, and he just falls on his back. And then next time, no, why would I lift it, Charlie Brown? I have no reason to lift it. And Charlie Brown's like, okay. And we do it again. And she lifts the football again. It's starting to look like Charlie Brown and Lucy. Agree, disagree? 617-266-6868. Mike, who do you want me to go to next? Russell in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Russell, and welcome.
Jeff, thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Russell.
The reason for the call is I've been almost calling every day since the last one. I'm a long-time listener, many-time caller, and I'm going to see if I can talk you and your listeners down off the ledge, if you'll oblige me.
Yes, go ahead. I mean, I didn't realize we're on the ledge, but that's okay. Go ahead, Russell.
The primary question is Trump being duped? I really don't think so, and I'm going to explain why. So I believe what's happening is he's giving them time. He's giving the world time to see what's going on. 38 tries, 38 days, 60 days, 90 days. He's giving them a chance. They're building a case. His military, I mean, we're blowing cigar boats out of the Caribbean Ocean with drugs on them. If nobody thinks that we're down there right now painting targets on every blessed thing they can blow up, you're naive. This is a very complex problem. It's been going and growing on for 47 some odd years. But Trump's the guy. We don't have Obama or Biden in office, shipping pallets of money over there, signing and agreeing to meaningless things. I think what we're going to see soon is there's going to be a map of the Middle East, and there's going to be a marks a lot thing on it that says, used to be Iran. I really believe it. There's no way you can negotiate with these people. They prove it every day. And you know what's funny is, I've been watching the media, I've been listening to the show, and this is what I think I see. The Democrats are awful quiet right now. They were flipping out, but now they're very quiet. And I think what they realized is they said, let's go over our agenda. Number one, is America suffering? Yes. Check the box. Is Trump looking like he's failing? Yes, check the box. Let's let Trump and his crew continue to dilly-dally and have this situation turn into nothing, fail, not get us anywhere, and then when we get to those sweet midterms, we're going to prevail. Well, look what's going on the other side of the look at the domestic stuff that's been going on. They're revving up the anti-ice thing again because they need something to fill in the gap while they're being quiet about Iran, which is not going well for them either. But honestly, you and you guys, I listen to the show daily. I listen to be educated and to be entertained. And by the way, that guy Aaron this morning, I hope he gets off of coffee, maybe try something else and I hope he's sleeping better because he had a lot to get off his chest. But I really think pretty soon the map is going to read, used to be Iran. It's probably going to be Trump, Middle East something. It's going to have something with his name on it, I hope. But there's no question they're trying to develop and prepare for phase two. Now, what is phase two? We've blown up most of their crap. What do you hit next? You can't bomb the country. You can't kill the civilians. But we have to annihilate something, and I think we're putting that plan together. And in the meanwhile, to his credit or to his fault, the guy tells us what he thinks, and he informs the country daily. And it's a moving target. I think he's doing his best. I think our military is revving up the engines. It's going to be over soon. But in the meantime, they're showing their cards, and they're going to ultimately say, you can't deal with these people. Hey, even people that listen to your show and nobody wanted boots on the ground. Nobody wanted escalation. Well, you're so fed up with waiting and impatient that, guess what? Now you're ready to wipe them out. So I would say calm down, take a breath. Trump is in office, and I trust him implicitly. That's where I'm at.
Well, no, Russell, I hear you. And, of course, you're making some excellent points. Look, here's again, if I was advising the president, I would say, why do we need a piece of paper from Iran, a memorandum of understanding, a deal, whatever you want to call it? Because we know it's not worth the paper it's written on. We know that. So what do we need? Well, we need the Strait of Hormuz to be fully reopened, because that's going to bring down oil prices, gas prices, inflation, energy, and that probably is going to win Trump the midterms. So we have the most powerful Navy in the world. Why don't we just unblock the strait? Use a bombing campaign to destroy all their coastal defenses, send in our big warships, our big guns. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. Okay, President Trump now waved off a planned airstrikes. It was going to be a massive wave of attacks. He said it was going to be basically Operation Epic Fury 2.0. And on top of that, he was openly talking about sending in ground troops to seize the vital economic hub of Karg Island. However, Iran may be fearful. Maybe they blinked. You know, they both were playing a game of chicken, and the Iranians blinked. Whatever happened, they suddenly did a complete 180. They had been stalling the negotiations for several weeks. All of a sudden, it went to the highest level. They reached out to Trump. They said, please call off the attack. We are ready to sign a deal. President Trump yesterday reversed himself, said the attacks have now been called off, and that a deal is imminent. In fact, as he put it, and I'm quoting him directly, we have just wrapped up a deal. All that remains now are a few details to be finalized, and that we will have J.D. Vance going to meet with the leadership of Iran to sign a memorandum of understanding. Now, just very, very quickly, the memorandum of understanding, this is now the framework. If the Iranians actually sign, this is now going to be the memorandum. Once it's signed, Iran must fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz for 60 days. We will then lift our blockade on all Iranian ports, especially oil exports from Iran, so they can sell their oil to their customers on the world stage. So basically, they lift their blockade, we lift our blockade. In principle, Iran has now agreed that they will not either develop or purchase or buy a nuclear weapon. So they, at least on paper, they are now giving up all nuclear ambitions. That's it. That's the deal. This will then trigger a 60-day negotiation, an extended permanent ceasefire for 60 days, in which both sides will be negotiating the Iran's enrichment uranium program. Trump wants it dismantled. They'll be discussing that. The massive stockpile of highly enriched uranium that are buried under 3 nuclear sites that we have absolutely destroyed. They're buried under deep rubble, under 3 mountains. So how to dispose of it, destroy it, dilute it, whatever. But we will be discussing the stockpile and their nuclear enrichment capability. Furthermore, Trump has promised Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, that he will also address, or at least discuss and negotiate, putting limits on Iran's ballistic missile program and on their ability to fund Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and their terrorist proxies around the Middle East. But there is no deal on the enriched uranium program. There is no deal on the stockpile of enriched uranium. There's no deal on Hamas or Hezbollah. All of that is going to be worked out, ironed out in a 60-day negotiation. If they don't reach an agreement by the end of 60 days, if they're very close, Trump says that can trigger then an extension, another 30 or even another 60 days. If they're too far apart, Trump says then they will decide whether to resume the war or not. So what I'm trying to say is there is no permanent deal. All there is an understanding that, okay, we will negotiate for 60 days and the Strait of Hormuz gets reopened and our blockade gets lifted. So this will benefit the world economy. It will benefit the Iranian economy, and obviously will drive prices down here, hopefully in time for the midterms. But Iran's nuclear program, its enrichment capability, its actual stockpile, that is still to be talked about and negotiated. Now, let me make one final point. Iran is insisting that they want all sanctions lifted. They've been under sanctions since 1979, and that they want about $100 billion in frozen assets to be released to them. They say they need it for economic relief because their economy has been absolutely decimated, and so they want both the sanctions gone, and they want the billions and billions and billions in frozen assets to be given back to the regime. Trump has said they will get both, but only at the end when they have agreed to give up their enrichment program and their stockpile. In other words, as he put it, no dust, no cash. No dust, no dollars. So unless they give up their uranium and the ability to enrich uranium, he says they will not get that money. They want some of that money up front. And I'm telling you, that's what they're haggling over right now. 617-266-6868. Chris in Tampa, Florida. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome.
My pleasure, Jeff. Good morning. Nobody's going to like what I've got to say, but because I'm fed up with hearing the whiners. Nobody that's calling in has said that they are actively involved. I get on True Social. I've had direct messages to Trump. I get on X. I tag 50. I'm allowed to tag up to 50 people. I tag people in media, conservative. I tag representatives, House reps, and senators. I've tagged you a bunch of times. And I don't understand what people can't see with regard to Trump playing these guys. He is showing the world that he has bent over backwards to please them, and they still don't get it. They still won't get it. The bottom line here is that I don't understand, Jeff, why everybody that's called in, and yourself included, don't see that these old men that run Iran, who have been lifelong Islamic Muslims and believed and touted that we are the great Satan, think for 1 minute that these men are going to make a deal with the great Satan. Not even a reality. They've proven that they're suicidal, and they've proven that they're homicidal on their own people. They are stone cold evil. They aren't going to change. And I suggested on True Social and X to a bunch of people that Trump send in Delta Force. Most people have never heard of Delta Force. It is the top of the military in our country. Send in Delta Force. Or even the CIA. The CIA has had access to regimes throughout their history and have taken down and set up regimes around the world.
Chris, can you do me a favor? I hear you. Hang on. I'm up against a hard break. I want to take this up on the other side. Chris, you and I agree. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Listen now to President Trump saying, I'm dealing with a different leadership now in Iran, and that's why I am confident, A, the deal will happen, and B, it is both good for Iran, the United States, and ultimately the greater Middle East. Roll cut 3A, Mike.
It's a great deal for the United States and for the Middle East, and I think ultimately great for Iran because they'll be able to build up their country and their country. I really believe it's a regime change because I find these people to be much more rational than the people that are no longer with us. We knocked out the first team of leadership, the second team of leadership. This is a different group. This is a different level, and I think it's frankly a smarter level, and it's a level that has reason. And they've all approved the deal. Everybody's approved the deal. Now we'll get it finished up, and hopefully that'll be done.
So he's saying it's a done deal. We're just going to wrap it up. It's going to just take any moment now, but one last look. Everybody's going to take one last look, especially the Ayatollah, the supreme leader in Iran, in his cave. And he says it's a good deal for everybody. Everybody has approved it. And he says at the core of the deal has been the core demand of President Trump and the core reason why we went to war. Roll cut 3B, Mike.
We will not have Iran having a nuclear weapon, which is very important to these people behind me. We can talk about fishing. There won't be anybody to fish. The fish will still be around, I guess. They're probably going to be affected, too. We're not going to let it happen. So Iran will essentially, most important paragraph to me, Iran will in no way, shape, or form have a nuclear weapon or purchase a nuclear weapon.
So he says at the heart of the deal or the memorandum, Iran cannot have or develop or purchase a nuclear weapon. Now, Rachel Scott from ABC News asks the all-important question. Not that I care for ABC News or Rachel Scott, but even a stopped clock is right twice a day, which is, okay, but is this just some kind of a broad, vague concept or principle? Or are we going to actually have, specific limits, restraints? Are we going to have targets, benchmarks that the Iranians have to adhere to in order to implement this deal? Listen now to President Trump saying it is very detailed, and in the end, Iran will give up its nuclear program. Roll cut 3C, Mike.
But is this just a concept of that agreement when it comes to nuclear? You said this was just a concept of that agreement. So is this just essentially setting the stage for deeper talks on nuclear?
It's a very strong memorandum of understanding. That is a little conceptual, but it's something that's going to get done. And if it doesn't get done for any reason, which I can't imagine that not happening, they want to sign it as much as I do or more. I would say they want to sign it more, maybe a lot more. But it's a very detailed memorandum of understanding, also agreed to by many other countries that have great influence over them, and everybody wants it done. So it's going to get done.
So he's saying, look, it's going to get done. The Iranians want it done. The region wants it done. Many countries have been involved in mediating and getting to this point. As I said, Pakistan, Egypt, Turkey, Jordan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain. He says there's a lot of players in this. Obviously, Israel. He says, so, no. He says, in the end, Iran will have to bend to reality. Now, my question to you, let me throw this log on the fire. Do you think Iran wants a deal? And Trump says that, and he said this repeatedly, they want a deal more than we do. That, in other words, they're looking for an exit ramp. Is Trump right? Do you think the Iranians want a deal And are they looking now for an exit ramp to end this war and get on to a post-war period? Personally, I don't think they want a deal. I think maybe they're trying to conjure up the illusion, the image of wanting a deal. But I think ultimately they're just trying to drag this along. 60 days now will take it to mid-August, even if they do sign something this weekend or next week. And, we've seen what a ceasefire is over the last couple of months. So they could be breaking off negotiations periodically. They could easily extend it for another month or two after August. You're right at November. So to me, I don't think they want a deal. I think what they want is they want to just, tap us along, drag this out, and their strategy is let the Democrats win in November, and then it's a completely different world. They will impeach the president. They will defund the president. They will go after the president. And then Trump will have lost a lot of his leverage and ability to deal with Iran. That's the mullah strategy. Delay, delay, delay. Meaning they don't want a deal. Am I wrong? 617-266-6868. Kurt in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Kurt, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call, Jeff.
My pleasure.
Oh,
Kurt.
I hate to admit it, but I think everything you just said was right. I would hate to see Trump's presidency go out on that note, because the Democrats are just going to stop him dead in his tracks, and they're just it's going to all be for naught. I think the president should just bomb all their ability to produce oil and just shut them down once and for all. He's giving them way too many chances to regroup.
Kurt, do you think the fact now that these negotiations have dragged on for, 60 days, longer than the actual Operation Epic Fury itself was, that was 40 days. And now we may have a deal, we may not have a deal. And even if we do have a deal, we're looking at another 60 days of negotiations on their nuclear program. Is this making the president look weak and indecisive? Or do you think all that matters in the end are the results? If he can get Iran to dismantle their nuclear program, to give up their nuclear ambitions once and for all, and to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, it's a massive victory. If it takes a little longer, it takes a little longer. Or do you think he's burning through his credibility because the Iranians are just slowly but surely dragging this out? And we're already in June, and before you know it, we'll be in the fall, and there still will not be a deal. What say you?
All they're doing, unfortunately, is stringing him along, and it's a shame. I thought he was more decisive. I thought he would make this count. Unfortunately, they're stringing him along. It's a shame. I think this should have been the final chance he gave him, and he let it slip through his hands again.
Kurt, that's what I thought yesterday. I mean, I'm on your wavelength. I thought yesterday was like, he's had it. It was the final time they lied to him. As he said, his words, they've been playing us for suckers. They've been tapping us along, and I'm done. So I thought, okay, you've now, what you've now done is you've rattled a hornet's nest, and now you're going to reap the whirlwind. So I thought, no. He's now going to go back to a massive bombing campaign, airstrikes, missile strikes, and maybe even hit Karg Island, take it over completely, which means you've crippled Iran economically. You take away their oil, you take away everything they have. And with that strict blockade, I mean, it's like a vice. You're just going to squeeze them until they're going to pop. So I thought he was going to hit him from the air, hit Karg, keep the blockade, and eventually they would just cry uncle because he would bring the whole country to its knees. And then 4 or 5 hours later, he comes out and says, we got a deal. I just spoke to the Iranian leadership, and they said, no, okay, we see it your way now. Please, just call off the strikes. Don't touch Karg. Don't invade. And, we'll sign on the dotted line. And I thought, the moment I heard it, I said, no, I don't believe them. They just wanted to avoid the bombing and the invasion. And, honestly, Curtis, what I don't get is, I think within 2 to 3 weeks, this thing would be over. If he just went all in, finish the job. I don't mean like these little self-defense pinprick strikes. I'm talking, Operation Epic Fury 2.0. In other words, we're going to level them. The blockade is economically choking them. That's a fact. And you just raise the specter of taking over Karg. Even if you don't do it, but you have them believing you may do it. The mullahs know, then they're finished. And I think after a while, they're going to look around and they're going to say, we got no more cards. This can't go on much longer. Because then the people are going to come out into the streets and they're going to throw us, they're going to throw us out of power. They're going to hang us from the lampposts. So I thought the president was going to go back to a war footing and finish them off. Instead, I guess he wants to give peace one last chance. And so my question to you, do you agree? Should he give a peace deal, which he says now is imminent, a last chance? 617-266-6868. Okay. Lines are on fire, but first, 8 o'clock, you know what that means. Kuhner's Call Log, Caller of the Week.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Kathy in New Hampshire, the floor is all yours.
This is totally wrong. We voted for this, me again. I voted 3 times for him, and I am so disappointed in what he's doing. I don't know if he's on an ego trip. I don't know if he's compromised. I don't know what's going on with him, but he has so let down the American people on every level. This is not the answer. Where's all the other countries that use the Strait of Hormuz? We don't even use it. Where are they spending this property, this strait? This is totally wrong. I am opposed to it, and everybody I talk to and listen to is the same way. He's making a huge mistake. This grandstanding is pathetic. He doesn't have to prove anything. What he needs to do is prove to his base that he keeps his word. No wars, the economy, everything. And he's failed on every count. That's all I have to say, Jeff.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Just for the record, and you know this because I've said this many times, Mike controls, that's his purview. He's the one that decides caller of the week. I have zero input whatsoever. To be brutally honest, if I say I like a certain caller or I think a certain caller should be caller of the week, just to spite me, Mike will then not have that caller be the caller of the week. Okay, that's how much or how little influence I have over caller of the week. Now, I don't know why Mike chose Kathy. I mean, it was a very strong, you heard it. It was a compelling call, a very engaging call, a powerful call in many ways. But I think, I don't want to speak for Mike, but I think the reason why Mike chose her is I noticed now, it's been a couple of weeks, but this week in particular, I've never heard so many Trump supporters call and express dissatisfaction with President Trump as I have this week. I can tell you in emails, in text messages, it's been 10 years now. I've never seen as many people either disaffected, angry, disappointed with Trump. And these are all people who say, and I believe them, I voted for him 3 times. I campaigned for him. I was MAGA from the beginning. Jeff, I love this man. I would even still vote for him, Jeff. But I'm not happy with the direction of this current administration. In the first term, I would maybe get the occasional email, the occasional phone call where people were dissatisfied with Trump, and it was usually during COVID, where they thought he had given too much power to Fauci, okay, or that he had green-lighted the experimental jab, and a lot of you were not happy with that. But that was an exception. And then when he went into political exile, I mean, almost to a man and woman, people were behind Trump. This audience, Kuhner Country, was behind Trump all the way. All the way. I mean, nobody would hear a bad word spoken about him. They wouldn't even hear it. Never mind say it. Something has changed. I'm just telling you. I'm just objectively. I'm just telling you by the number of emails I'm getting, the number of messages on Messenger, the number, especially the text line. And, you know, I don't think these are liberals trolling us because I know the numbers. These are people that have been with us from the very beginning. And they say, look, Jeff, voted for him 3 times. I love the guy. Thought the election was stolen from him in 2020. I practically cried when he won on, election night against Kamala Harris. And what Kathy said sums up many of their feelings. Not all, but many of them. Those that are complaining, those that are disaffected. That Trump has spent way too much of his political capital on foreign policy, on interventions abroad. They feel that he has neglected the home front, that inflation is too high, gas and oil is too high, food is too high, that many of them economically are really struggling to make ends meet. And they feel that the president has prioritized foreign policy and issues abroad over looking after the American people at home. And so let me throw this log on the fire. Do you agree with that? Are you one of those many, let me just say, disaffected Trump supporters? I'm not saying you're not going to vote for him or you've abandoned him, but you're like Kathy. You're angry. You're angry. Now, let me just say this. Trump did pass the big, beautiful bill. It is the largest tax cut in American history. He has completely secured and sealed the border. He has stopped Biden's border invasion cold. He has gone into city after city with a very aggressive deportation agenda. Illegals are being deported, and they're being deported by the hundreds of thousands. Crime is coming down. Washington, D.C. is now a safe city again. Other big cities are becoming much safer because of what Trump has done. On top of that, before the war with Iran, gas was at $2 a gallon. So he did bring gas down. Now, the war brought it back up, but as Trump says, it's temporary. We're not going to be at war with Iran or negotiating with Iran forever. This too shall end, and it'll end within a couple of months. So he's saying, look, don't worry. I'll get inflation back down. I did it just before the war. I'll do it again. I'll get gas, oil, everything will start coming back down. We're going to hit the economic golden age. I had to do what I had to do regarding Iran. It was an existential threat in my view, and I could not allow them to develop a nuclear weapon. But the economy is already, latest jobs report exceeded all expectations. People are hiring, the economy is growing, and Trump believes eventually I will rein in inflation. I did it before the war. We'll do it when this war is finally concluded. So, in other words, I haven't forgotten you. I just had to do this war. And that kind of, as he puts it, it was a detour. But Trump says a necessary detour. So my question to you, are you happy with President Trump's conduct of his presidency? Or are you like Kathy? Are you disaffected? Many of you say it's a different Trump. I hear this again and again. It's not what I voted for. It's not the Trump of his first term. It's a different Trump. A Trump that now is more interested in foreign policy, foreign affairs, overthrowing governments, whether it's Venezuela, obviously now potentially Iran, launching bombing or airstrikes. This is a Trump that now is more concerned about issues abroad than focusing at home. Where do you stand? I want to hear from you. Lines are blazing. Kim in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Kim, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Kim.
I actually have two points to make, one on the Iran thing and then one on immigration, if you'd allow me that in a second.
Yes, please, go ahead.
But with this whole Iran thing, I mean, they need this enriched uranium that's like buried below everything, right? They need that for their nuclear weapons plan.
I'm
right?
sorry, could you repeat that?
They need this enriched uranium that's like buried under mountains of rubble to continue with their plan, correct?
That's right. Without that enriched uranium, they cannot build a bomb.
So I think we ought to just, all right, you guys have fiddled with us enough, made us look like fools enough. No more talks. We're just going to pull out. We got this stuff buried under mountains of rubble. Let Israel and Iran figure stuff out, but God help you if even a camel gets closer to this pile of rubble, and just keep an eye on the uranium that's not going anywhere, and just let them figure stuff out. Why do we have to? Why? If that's not going anywhere, their plans aren't moving forward. Just let them duke it out.
Well, Kim, look, you've touched on something very profound. And I got to be careful how I phrase this, but with talks that I've had, private conversations I've had with some people in the administration, let me just say it like this. This is what I have proposed to them. The longer you keep negotiating with Iran, the longer you're going to get what's been happening, which is you've lost the initiative. You have to keep relying on them to keep their word, that when they say they're going to sign something, they will. But you can't trust them. So my argument has been, take it out of their hands. Don't give them that kind of power over Trump, over the administration, over the country, over the world. Now, according to what Trump said, and I agree with him, I think he's right, Iran does not have the technology to get the enriched uranium, which is buried that deep under the ground, under all that rubble. Only China and only the United States, only two countries, can go that deep and quickly. I mean, yeah, they can dig it out after a couple years, but I mean quickly get in there and grab and scoop up all that uranium. Plus, Trump said, we have such sophisticated satellites that not only do we have eyes all over it, but we can see so deep into the ground that even if they try to, through an underground tunnel reach it, we will know, and we can bomb it again. So what I said is, they can't touch the enriched uranium without us knowing it. If they can't touch it, it's useless to them. And if they do try to touch it, we can bomb them to smithereens, us and Israel. So you've essentially neutered them on the nuclear issue. They do not have the means to get a bomb. They can't. And you've destroyed their nuclear capability so bad that you've set them back at least 10, if not 15 years. Nothing is forever, but you've settled it for a generation, which is huge. So now the only issue left is the Strait of Hormuz. That's where a lot of the shipping is being bottled up. That's why all these commercial vessels, oil tankers can't get out. That's what's driving the price of oil to $100 a barrel. And that's why we have $4.55 gas and inflation at 4%. And that's what's killing Trump politically. So as I said to them privately, and I got to be careful how I say this, I said, forget taking Carg Island. I mean, it's nice if we can get it. Send in the U.S. Navy, bomb all their coastal defenses, and we reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Period. That's it. That's it. And then we declare victory and go home. It's over. If they can't block the strait, they don't have a chokehold on the world economy. They can't blackmail us. Oil drops to $60-50 a barrel. Gas goes back down to $2 a barrel. Sorry, $2 a gallon. Inflation will be cut in half. And you're on your way to potentially winning the midterms. So take it out of Iran's hands. Don't give them any power. We don't need a piece of paper. This is not like a traditional war where we need a settlement, a treaty, an agreement, and then, wave it around to everybody, call it a name, whatever, let's say they sign it in Geneva, the Geneva Accords, for the world to realize whether we won or lost. I said, all you got to do is reopen the strait, keep your eyes on the enriched uranium because they can't touch it, so now they can never get the bomb, and declare victory, because it's true, because you've won. You've militarily destroyed them. You've decapitated their regime. Their supreme leader is dead. Most of their political leaders are dead. Their country is in tatters. Their economy now is in a death spiral. We control the strait. Gas comes tumbling down. Energy comes down. Inflation comes down. And we've got all the eyes and ears we need to watch the enriched uranium, which they can't get to for years underneath all that rubble. And if they try to, we'll bomb the hell out of them again. It's not a perfect solution, I understand, but that solves most of your problems. Instead, if you need them to sign on a dotted line, you're giving them power. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Deal or no deal? Do you think Trump should go ahead with the deal that he says is now imminent? Or do you think he should just forget about making any deals with these savage barbarians in Tehran, resume the bombing, and just finish them off once and for all? You know where I stand. I want to hear from you. Jerry on the Cape. Thanks for holding, Jerry, and welcome.
Comrade.
Comrade, how are you, my friend?
I am well. That's for it. Comrade, I agree with you 100%. There's no way, even if they say they'll sign, they will sign, but they'll never abide by any agreement. Their goal is one thing and one thing only, Jeff. It started in the 7th century with Muhammad. They believe in one thing and one thing only, the end of times. They want the destruction of this planet. They're insane. They're 7th century theocrats. They're nuts. But, Jeff, there's only one way around this. Bomb the hell out of them. Wipe out the lines for all that power plants. Bomb the bridges. I know people are going to die and everything. It's better than us dying. But, Jeff, the IDF and all the Gulf states, they need to put at least 250,000 ground troops in there and hunt these IRGC people, whoever's left, whoever's still loyal to the Ayatollah and the mullahs. You got to eliminate them. That's the only way Iran will be free. You have to eliminate these people.
Jerry, let me ask you this, and I know it's a little bit inside baseball, but it's what the Trump administration is dealing with. And by the way, if you want to know why, in defense of Trump, why he's been saying, 38 times we have a deal, then we don't have a deal, it's really come down to this. The two chief negotiators for the Iranians are the foreign minister and the speaker of the parliament, and they're backed by the president. So those are the three. Now, you're right, they're crazy, but how do I say this? They're just less crazy. They're survivors. They can read the writing on the wall. They know Iran is lost. They want to live for another day. They don't want to see their country get completely wiped out or the blockade causing such economic misery and starvation that the people of Iran are going to come out onto the streets and hang them all. So they're the ones who are negotiating a deal. And to be fair, they're the ones who are saying, okay, no, this is good enough. We'll take this. The problem is it goes back to the supreme leader, the chief Ayatollah. And he now is essentially a puppet, unlike his father who was killed. His father, whatever you thought about him, he was a nut. But how do I say this? He had genuine respect. People revered him. They saw him as basically the Shia Pope. They don't respect this guy, the son. They think he's gay. Apparently, rumors are that he's impotent, that apparently he's corrupt. He's got all these homes in London. They just don't respect him the way they respect his father. And so he now has become a puppet, as you put it, of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. Those are the crazy militant hardliners. And so whenever the foreign minister or the parliament speaker comes back and says, okay, I think we can live with this. We just signed we put an understanding with the Trump administration. We think we should accept this deal. The IRGC says niet, or whatever the Farsi word is for no. They go no. And the Ayatollah, who's beholden to them, captive by them, he's their mouthpiece. He says no. So the problem now is that you have a massive division in the Iranian negotiating team. Just for the lack of a better word, you have the moderates. Okay, to me, they're just not moderates. They want to live. So you have the pragmatists and you have the absolute crazy hardliners. The problem that Trump faces, and JD has said this, and Rubio has said this, who are we negotiating with? We're negotiating with the so-called pragmatists. Okay, we think we have a deal. We tell the president, they've agreed to everything. We're just now waiting for the finalization. But then they come back and the hardliners nix it and say, no, not enough, not good enough. So my question to you is this, Jerry. Can we even negotiate with a country in which you have essentially two factions who are at odds with each other and we don't know who's really running the country? I mean, send me a negotiating team that has the authority to sign a freaking deal. Or am I wrong, Jerry?
50 years ago, a general in the U.S. military, and my deceased grandmother, as she referred to them as the Black Hand, both of these men told me to the letter, you can kill your way out of anything, and that's what we need to do. We need to kill our way out of this. Enough talk.
I'm with you.
Kill your way out of it.
I'm with you. And honestly, I think if they really turn down this final peace offer or peace deal, I think Trump should just turn around and say, look, the negotiators don't have the authority. The supreme leader apparently doesn't have the authority. I don't know who I'm negotiating with, but I can't negotiate with a country that sends me a negotiating team and nobody has the authority to sign a freaking deal. So then there's no point in us even having a negotiation. So you know what? Bye-bye. We're going to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and we're going to bomb you to kingdom come. And the next time we meet, there's no negotiation. It's an unconditional surrender. Period. Like we gave to Germany and like we gave to Japan. Here it is. Our terms, take it or leave it. Comrade, thank you so much for that call. Agree, disagree, Frank in South Carolina. Thanks for holding, Frank, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Frank?
Oh, boy, am I going to hear it from my friends who listen to the station. I'll tell you something, Jeff. They say to me, Frank, you're always kissing up to Jeff's backside.
Well, you know what? This time, I'll tell you what. You don't have. I love your compliments. You're always so sweet and generous. Skip the compliments and just, Frank, what do you think? Do we have a deal? And do you think Trump should sign a deal? Because is a deal with the Iranians, can we even trust a deal with these animals in Tehran? What say you, Frank?
No, because I went for my early morning walk in my neighborhood, of course, in South Carolina, and I'm talking to people that are watering their lawns and everything, and we all agree. I can't believe it. We all agree that Trump is doing the wrong thing. Like you said, you can't reason with these people, and well, you know, they want to know what Trump's next move is going to be, and they just jerking him around. So I agree. You know, the funny thing is, oh, here goes another compliment for you. You might have to come in through the garage door.
No, but listen, Frank, I think you've hit on something very important. For the president, I'm talking now about President Trump, for his authority, for his credibility, for his presence on the world stage, I would say, look, Mr. President, I love you, man, but you're right, they're jerking you around. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lines are loaded. I'm going to go right to the phone lines. But first, remember I mentioned this or just touched on it maybe about 45 minutes ago about I'm just surprised how many in Kuhner country now, diehard MAGA, America first, voted for Trump 3 times, arch Trump supporters, yet I've never seen this many anyway, people who love Trump, criticize Trump, disappointed, disaffected, especially the way the second term is starting to, the direction is starting to head in. And so I asked why. You know, why? And, you know, how do you feel? You agree, disagree? And this is from 603, and I think 603 really puts the finger on it. Jeff, the reason MAGA supporters are becoming disappointed with Trump is because of this single issue of the war with Iran is utterly dismantling Trump's economic recovery, which before this one move, because of everything he was implementing, was starting to make a real impact. And that impact was only going to increase. Add to that the now threatened midterms. I think 603 pretty much nailed it. You know, if you just go back before the war, okay, February 28th is when the war started. Let's just go to February 27th. Objectively, the big, beautiful bill had kicked in. The economy was starting to roar. We were creating jobs. Growth rates were now going high. We had trillions of dollars in investment pouring in. Trump had stabilized now the tariff regime. The tariffs, for the most part, were now put in place. I mean, the engine was now, gas was at $2 a gallon, and people were talking maybe even it was going to go down to 180, 175. Inflation was just at about 2% and heading downwards. If you remember, Trump was putting pressure on the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, saying, come on, man, drop the rates. You know, 2% inflation. What are you, crazy? You know, you're crazy to keep the interest rates high. Drop them, lower them. So inflation was at 2, going down. Powell was under pressure to lower interest rates, which would help with buying a home or, you know, getting a loan for a business or whatever. So everything was starting to really mesh and come together. And regardless of whether you think the decision to attack Iran was a good or a bad one, I'm just saying, again, just from an analyst's point of view, just nonpartisan, objectively, the economy was starting to take off like a rocket ship. We were there. We were right at the beginning of the golden age. Now, that's what wars do. It's every war. It's not just this war. Wars hurt economy. They just hurt the economy. They do. So this one in particular regarding the Strait of Hormuz, oil, gas, energy, fertilizer, especially how it affected world markets, that changed everything, at least temporarily. And so I think a lot of it is people are frustrated, and I know that's the impact it had on Grace, my wonderful wife. She was like, look, I'm waiting for the golden age. I want the golden age. I'm tired of waiting. The American people are tired of waiting. So that's why she's been frustrated. So that's why I think Trump understands that. That's why, to be fair to him, he's like, I don't want to restart the bombing. I don't want to, do Operation Epic Fury Part 2, because then I got several more months potentially of this war. I just want a deal, and I want to get out. When I get out, everything will start coming back to normal again. And we're going to surge into the midterms. So that's where we are. 617-266-6868. Just my opinion. Agree, disagree. Steve in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Steve. You're on the air. Go ahead. Steve, can you hear me? Steve, try to call back. I think we had a bad connection. Okay, Mike, who do you want me to go to next, Maestro Mike? Paul, near my neck of the woods. Not quite my paisan, but almost my paisan, my fellow villager. Paul in Mansfield. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Jeff, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you, Paul?
Jeff, I'm going to say some things, and it's probably going to not make some people happy about the Trump supporters that are jumping ship. Okay, I thought your caller had one earlier that referred to, talk these people down off the ledge. Jeff, this war's already over. It's Straits of Hormuz, my foot. I'm telling you right now, this is already done. This negotiation for a piece of paper for a Neville Chamberlain treaty and this crap. This is just theater. Trump's he's honest, but he's being dishonest, but in a good way. He's doing this. You think that after 50 years of this Iranian regime causing terror on the world, you don't think that the Pentagon and all the think tanks and the war games, you don't think that they've discussed the possibility of what would happen if we do some military action? Of course they have. Of course they have. The Straits of Hormuz, my foot. I'm telling you right now, Jeff, this is how you do it. You have they're defeated. That's actually not good. I'll tell you why. You got 90 million people living in Iran, and yes, a lot of them are not Islamists. They may not agree with the mullahs and that form of government, but they're Iranians. They've got to be proud of their country. They're just defeated to go in and destroy them. You're just asking for another, like Hitler after World War I. That's what you're asking for. It's not. It's probably better, and I know that the Trump administration is taking a chance, but it's something they have to do. They have to allow the media to attack them. Look at the media now. They're actually saying, well, you're just going in and take them out with all this negotiation. You're being played. It's funny, they weren't saying that before, but he knew that. And even the conservatives are starting to question, this is necessary, Jeff. You have to give them an exit. You have to give them a door. And it looks, even though they don't have one, Jeff, I even hate to say this on the radio. They don't have a door. They are done. We could turn that country into a burnt Pop-Tart in about 5 minutes. This thing with the Straits of Hormuz, it's fake. I mean, not fake, but I mean, it's. I'm telling you right now that the negotiation, that once they saw what we gave them no warning, no negotiations before we took the nuclear facility out, and all their military and their Navy and their Air Force. There was no negotiation there. We just did it. But maybe not completely, but they know now that they are defeated. But so I have to give whoever came up with this idea with the Straits of Hormuz is brilliant. Now they can save some face, Jeff, by looking like they have some power, like they have a bargaining chip, which they do not, Jeff. They do not have one. Yes, it's impacting the world economy. Oh, my God, the Straits of Hormuz. Oh, my. And just give me a break. What are they, throwing rocks from the beach? Jeff, these people, they could be defeated. But that's not necessarily the best thing to do, to just go in and just impose our will on this country. That's not a good strategy. Better to show them quietly, this is what we do. This is what we're going to do. And if you guys want to save some face, we have no problem. We might even let some of your mullahs stay in power. We may, be good players, but let you know what we can do. But you can't have them sign a treaty to declare that, oh, yeah, we were defeated. And you're going to have animosity towards the United States. And we're also building alliances with the rest of the Europe. And they're saying, yeah, these people are antagonists. They're not cooperating. I mean, they should just sign. So we're actually building a coalition here. So that other record did refer to that a little bit. It's not about Trump going in and starting Trumponia, or renaming the country of Iran. It's not about that. We don't want to destroy their economy, Jeff. They have oil. They have resources. Let's keep that going. And maybe they have a democracy, maybe not. Let's not defeat this country in shame. Let's not go in. But even though they are.
I hear you. No, Paul. Well, you're right. Look, they are defeated. There's no question. I mean, he's crushed them. He has. Again, I'm just saying objectively. He's dismantled and destroyed their military. They're never going to be the same again, at least for 10, 15, 20 years. And I think Americans, we just take for granted how good our military is. They spent 40 years on these ballistic missiles, the mullahs. Like, it's taken generations for them to get this nuclear program, to get these ballistic missiles, to build up their military, to, develop an influence that goes all the way to Hezbollah and Lebanon and Hamas and the Palestinian territories. And that's all gone. That's all shattered. So Trump has undone 40 years of what the Iranians, the leadership, has tried to do. So he has broken their back. There's no question. My question to you is this, though, Paul. I hear you. You don't want to humiliate them. Okay, I agree. You destroy them. You're just going to guarantee a potential Hitler down the road. From the ashes, who knows what will rise up. I hear you. How does this thing end? Because the frustration that Trump is now facing is they won't sign. As he called them, one time, you stupid bastards, just sign. Like, sign. Because he is willing to be generous. He says, I'll lift the sanctions. You can stay in power. I'll even release billions in frozen assets. You'll have a lot to sell to your people. I just want the Strait of Hormuz reopened completely so oil and gas can finally go down. And I don't want you guys to get a nuclear weapon. That's it. I'm not asking for the moon. But they won't sign. So, Paul, how do you get them to sign?
I believe they've already signed. I believe the Straits of Hormuz, they kind of are open. They're not stopping anything from going to the Straits of Hormuz. This is Trump. This is media. This is his gamesmanship. It's politics. They're not in any way, shape, or form ready to take on the United States. Now, it seems like they're closing this. Who's closing the Straits of Hormuz? We got a blockade, and then they won't let stuff get through. That makes no sense. It never made any sense to begin with. I'm telling you right now, Jeff, that the main thing is the nuclear weapon. That was what they were after. No other president was willing to do it. He did it. Okay? And Trump's only going to be president for 2 years, Jeff. Okay, there's going to be another president, and then another president, and then another one. All right, it's up to them now to maintain and be vigilant on this country. This is not we're not going to end Islamic extremism. It's not going to end. You have to understand that. But we can do it. We can try to get rid of some of the threats.
Well, I mean, Paul, look. That's you. Believe it or not, you and I I think are in agreement on a lot. I said this before. Somebody called and said, "Oh, the war was for nothing," and I'm like, "But that's not true." I said, one, their military has been wiped out, but two, Trump has set back their entire nuclear weapons program at least 15 to 20 years. There's no question. There's no question. I mean, much of it is under mountains of rubble. I mean, it's there. Their 3 major nuclear sites are gone. They've been bombed to smithereens. It's finished. So, he's broken them. Now, it's not permanent. Nothing is permanent. Or, I know Bibi would like to do even more. Bibi would like a full regime change. I get it. You get a regime change. Look, let's put it this way. If we had the Shah's son, a moderate royal, a king, a moderate monarchy, constitutional monarchy running Iran, they're not going to go for a nuclear weapon ever. Because they don't want one. They don't need one. They're civilized. They want to work and trade with the rest of the world. They're not looking to bring about the 12th Imam and this Shia and Muslim apocalypse and a world empire and fight with Israel and start a nuclear war and the world is a ball of fire and, all that Shia theology. They just are normal, sane people that just want to have a decent life. So I get it. But say they stay in power. They're not going to be able to reconstitute a bomb, their nuclear weapons program, or even much of a military for at least a generation. And, that's what I was trying to tell people in the Trump administration. There are no permanent solutions to problems. You're only president for 4 or 8 years. You do the best that you can. And, that's why we have presidents after you. So, to me, I think he's achieved all of his military objectives, all of his geopolitical objectives. They are not going to get the bomb. They won't get the bomb for at least a generation. And now all he's got to do now is get oil down and get all those ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Demine it and stop Iran from harassing and persecuting these ships with their drones and their missile strikes. And you take care of that. It's over. Iran is lost. We've won. Paul, my almost fellow paisan in Mansfield, thank you so much for calling, Paul. 617-266-6868. Steve in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, Steve.
I'm going to go off on a totally different tangent from this topic, but I just find that it's pretty interesting that yesterday was what President Trump was proposing to be the largest, biggest bombing campaign ever on Iran. And today is one of the largest IPOs in stock market history is about to be launched as well, which would be SpaceX. And so just, I know that President Trump is sometimes very focused on the stock market. And if you look and see after and pre-market, the market is up almost 1,000 points. So it's just whether a deal is coming or not, it just strikes. I just find it interesting that the day when one of the largest, most profitable, a lot of people are going to make money today, and I just find that kind of interesting.
Well, and on top of that, you're completely right on everything, Steve. The price of oil per barrel went down, I think, another $10-15 because Wall Street, the market's saying, a deal is imminent now. It looks more serious than anything we've had in the past. And so it looks like They're going to have a ceasefire, a 60-day ceasefire. And again, the big thing is the naval blockade will be lifted, our naval blockade, and then the mullah's blockade of the strait, that will be lifted. So all those tankers and vessels and ships are going to start flowing again like they were before the war. So overall, oil is starting to come down. The stock market is surging. And you're right. Elon Musk now, in theory, could be the first trillionaire in human history. And so it's going to create a lot of wealth here in the United States. Look, I think there's no question, Steve. If you could wave a magic wand and just get them to sign, and you get just a half-decent deal, Trump's set up, he has laid the groundwork for an economic revival, the likes that we have not seen for a long time. There's no question. All of the economic fundamentals are now in place. And I think Trump knows it. And I think what's upsetting him, and I don't blame him, is that the Democrats who gave us this inflation crisis, this all began under Biden, they were the ones who gave us the quote-unquote affordability crisis. Everything went up under Biden, dramatically. Everything. Energy, food, oil, gas, you name it, across the board. They were the ones who created this mess. And Trump was on the verge of fixing it. He had this war, inflation's gone up a little, gas has gone up, and now they're running on lower prices and lower gas and lower inflation? The very people that caused this problem in the first place? And I think Trump is he's livid about it. I don't blame him. And Steve, this is the part, look, this is what's driving him, his team, and this is what worries me. It's not just if he loses in November, okay, the Democrats take over the House. We've had that happen to presidents many times. The party out of power ends up winning the midterms, and there's a bit of a balance act that happens. These are left-wing crazies. These are commie-crats. I mean, these are hardcore anti-American Marxists, socialists, whatever you want to call them. I mean, they want to impeach Trump. They want to destroy Trump. They want to destroy his administration. We're talking about Zoran Mamdani and Graham Plattner and Bernie and AOC and all of these left-wing lunatics controlling Congress. And Trump knows that. They're going to burn the country to the ground. That's why Trump is saying, I got to get gas down, and I got to get gas down now. Steve, final word to you.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, and I think that, like you're saying, these crazies are gaining momentum, and people are not thinking rationally as to what the...
Oh, you're right. The consequences of what they're going to do. And I think that's why people are saying, Jeff, I'm frustrated with Trump. I hear you. I hear you. George in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Great show.
Thank you,
good
George.
topic. So you asked the question, what's changed with Trump? And I think what's going on is that he's realizing that, his reign's coming to an end, and that he's looking more big picture. And, we can thank Clinton, Bush, Obama, Biden for basically kicking off the 21st century and screwing it all up. And I think that's what he's trying to deal with. But I think he's negotiating with the wrong people. Instead of the Iranians, he should be negotiating with the Democrats. We as Americans, need to come up with a consistent policy from administration to administration on how to handle Iran. And I'm more inclined for the squeeze as opposed to kinetic. But whatever it ends up being is, I think he should get Schumer in there. And Schumer needs to say the same thing that Trump is saying. And I think that solves the problem long term. And that's what our enemies are, basically using against us, is that we as Americans have an inconsistent policy. One administration's crazy about, they're going to do this and do that, and they do it, and then the other reverses everything. And I think that's the only way moving forward that the country, I think that's how we should approach it. And, he should really do, a Monday night address to the country, and that would solve it. But, the crazies are only growing in population, and the longer this goes on, it's going to get worse. So I think that's really what he should be doing,
Well, George, look, in theory, you're not 100, you're 1,000% correct. You're absolutely right. We should have consistency between, at least on key foreign policy issues and threats like Iran, administration to administration. You're absolutely right. It's going to seem a little bit like a curveball, but trust me, it'll make perfect sense in like 15 seconds. There's a stunning new poll out. 55% of Democrats, 55, that's a majority, say they want to leave the United States and live somewhere else. That they're so disgusted with Trump, but not just Trump. They said on the anniversary, the 250th anniversary coming up in, less than a month, they go, are you proud to be an American? Not proud. They go, they're so not proud to be Americans that they so hate this country that over half of them said, we would rather live in another country. Now, add to that another 30-40% of Democrats who say, well, I'll live here, but I hate living under Republican rule or Trump or what America has become. That's why Schumer can't make a deal with Trump. That's why the Democrats, to put it plainly, have been openly rooting for Iran in this war. I've never seen anything like it. To just stand back, it would be akin to World War II and let's say the Republicans then, because they were in the opposition, that the Republicans would be rooting for Imperial Japan and Hitler's Germany. Saying, no, we want them to win. No, we're siding with them. No. You see, you're bombing German cities. Those are civilian targets. That's a war crime. FDR is a war criminal. He needs to be sent to the dock. That's what the Democrats are saying and have been saying. They have openly, this is not trying to be inflammatory or pouring gas on the fire. That's what they are rooting for Iran to win and America to lose. They say that the mullahs are morally superior to the United States. So when you have a party of traitors and Benedict Arnolds who are openly trying to sabotage the country in the middle of a war with a country that has been an existential threat to the region and to us since 1979, the whole regime, basis of the regime is death to America, death to Israel, death to the great Satan, death to the little Satan. And you're siding with them? How can there's no common ground. There's no common ground. And I don't say this lightly, George. As an historian, I'm telling you, we have, and this is not my only opinion, many historians have said this. We are as divided now, maybe even more, than we were in 1860. And we know what happened after the election of Lincoln. So this is how polarized and divided we are. I truly believe, and you may disagree, we are no longer the United States of America. I believe we are the divided states of America. And what you're really seeing between red and blue, red states, red cities, blue cities, red counties, blue counties, it's not just two different political parties or even two different political philosophies. It's two different countries. And I think that's why the Democrats, they don't just oppose Trump. It's scorched earth. They want to destroy Trump. They want to destroy us. MAGA, Trump supporters. George, final word to you.
I mean, Jeff, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, what you're saying is what I am experiencing in life. I mean, I just did a project where baby boomer and son's maybe 37 years old, and he was talking about him. And I said, where does he live? And he goes, well, he used to live in Burlington, Vermont. And I said, oh, that's cool. And I said, well, where's he now? And he goes, he left the country because he hates Trump.
Wow. Wow. I mean, George, I couldn't stand Biden. You couldn't stand Biden. I couldn't stand Obama. I bet you couldn't stand Obama. Joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the co-founder, CEO, and president of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. People are living longer than ever before, and that's certainly something to celebrate. But living longer can also bring challenges that many families are not prepared to discuss. Mobility issues, memory concerns, caregiving responsibilities, housing decisions. The reality is that most people spend years preparing for retirement, but very little time preparing for aging itself. That is why we have made available our complimentary investor guide. You are looking forward to retirement, but what if you need long-term care? It helps families better understand care options, the impact of caregiving, and why having these conversations early can make such a difference. At Kelly Financial, our advisors help people prepare for the realities that can come with longer lives. To request your complimentary copy, give us a call or email us at kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff will continue this conversation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or catch the radio rewind on our website. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. To get a free copy of that guide, and I urge all of you, if you can, do get it. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, or you can actually email Kelly herself personally, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's kelly@kellyfinancial.org. 9:35 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Okay, let me ask all of you, the great audience of Kuhner Country, by Monday morning, okay, after the Kuhner man has a nice, relaxing weekend, fingers crossed, watch Team USA, by the way, play Paraguay tonight, opening game of the World Cup. For Team USA, go baby go. Hopefully the boys will win it and win it big. So the Kuhner man will be happy on Monday. Are we going to have a deal with Iran? Trump says we're practically there. It's imminent. He says there even could be a signing ceremony in Europe by Sunday where he'll send J.D. Vance. They're just finalizing the details. Iran has come out and said there is no deal yet. Nothing conclusive has yet been signed, according to now their official media outlet. So Iran is saying not so fast. Trump is saying we're practically there any second, any minute. So my question to you, when the Kuhner man comes back on the air, hopefully, 6 o'clock sharp as always, Monday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Will there be a deal? Whatever, memorandum of understanding, whatever you want to call it. Will Iran have signed? Or do you think it'll be what it's been the last 2 months? Close, but no cigar. In other words, no, we don't have a deal. 617-266-6868. I don't know. Part of this feels different. Everybody's saying that. The negotiators, the mediators, all the countries in the Middle East. Trump is telling people behind the scenes they will sign. So part of it feels like, no, it does seem I think he did scare the living daylights out of them by threatening to expand and escalate the bombing campaign and to take over Carg Island. So maybe that'll finally jolt him into signing the memorandum. But then again, we're dealing with the mullahs. You know? The mullahs are still the mullahs. So if I'm a betting man, I'd have to say no deal. I could be wrong, but if you say, Jeff, put some money on this, I'd probably say no deal. Mike says no deal. What say you? Rick in Cambridge. Thanks for holding, Rick, and welcome.
Be no deal. Iran doesn't have to do anything. They can just sit tight as the gas prices go up and Trump destroys his presidency.
So, Rick, you're saying you don't think there will be a deal because ultimately they're blockading the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah,
oil is going up, and as oil keeps going up, gas prices go up, and Trump is going to be wiped out in the midterms, correct?
Threw us all under the bus. He threw every one of these people that saved him from going to prison, got him back in the White House. He threw us all under the bus. It's really pathetic.
Now, Rick, if you don't mind me asking, when you say he threw us under the bus, you mean by going to war with Iran, or do you mean other things as well?
That he's doing this war for Israel, and it's not good for anything, anyone in America or anything. It's not good for us. The Democrats will get back in power. The borders will be back open. This was the last chance we had to save this place.
Rick,
what do you think's going to happen when they get back in?
Oh, it's going to be a nightmare. Oh, Rick, that I agree. I agree on that point. You and I, my friend, are not 1,000% in agreement. Rick, if you had his ear now, right now, forget February 28th or when the war began. Today, right now, what would you tell him to do?
Get the hell out of there.
Forget any deal. Just get out.
Yes, it's insane. Not our problem, not our fight. He's promised to focus on Americans.
Rick, let me ask you, just to play devil's advocate, because you were saying, his presidency is going to burn. Gas prices are going to go up to, whatever, $6-7 a gallon eventually. And the Democrats are going to surge back to power. What do you say to the argument, okay, Rick, I'm going to leave. But if I leave, the Iranians effectively have control over the strait. They've said they're going to impose a toll on every oil tanker and commercial vessel going through, and oil is going to remain high. In other words, if I leave now, Iran has effectively won the war, but B, gas is going to be high, and my goose is cooked in November. What say you?
I mean, they're not going to give up. You guys think these guys are like, oh, they're crazy. They're not giving up. Why would they give up? We attacked them.
So, Rick, basically, you're saying cut your losses.
Yes, get the hell out of there.
Interesting. Rick, thank you very much for that call. So, Rick is saying he feels Trump betrayed us on the war, and it's going to cost us the midterms. And he says now Trump should just get out, cut your losses while you can, because it's only going to get worse. Agree, disagree? Tom in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Great show.
Thank you, Tom.
The last caller kind of hit on the button, Jeff. I've been calling for weeks, saying he should be out of there yesterday. And the reason, you talk about policy, we have a policy when it comes to war. It's in the Constitution. Congress declares war. And the reason our founding fathers put it in is because they looked at the European monarchs, that they taxed the people to go to war. They didn't want one person.
As you know, Canada is playing Bosnia and Herzegovina today at 3 o'clock. And then, of course, Team USA is playing Paraguay for the World Cup. And Mike is saying, you got to be rooting against Canada. And I'm like, why would I be rooting in favor of Bosnia against Canada? He goes, well, I thought you left Canada behind, Jeff. I mean, are you really an American or are you not an American? And I'm like, Mike, why do I have to root against Canada to prove to you that I'm a real American? I mean, it is the land of my birth. What, I can't support them against Bosnia? No, Mike? So anyway, Mike is saying I have no choice. I have to support Bosnia and Herzegovina. So there you go. This is what I have to put up with when I'm off air. All right, I got to move to Stoughton. That's all I got to say. Why? Very quick. I promise, Tom, I'm going to come right back to you. Apparently, now it's not only Stoughton. Many of you have been texting me and emailing me all morning saying, Jeff, no, gas prices are starting to come down. And so this is from Kevin. This is what he emailed me. Jeff, we've seen gas prices drop sharply in less than 3 weeks. At Cumbies, that means for those of you outside of Massachusetts, that's Cumberland's. Why everybody calls it Cumbies here, I don't know, but you're not a real, you're not really a resident of Massachusetts unless you call it Cumbies. So at Cumbies, here in Stoughton, Memorial Day weekend, it was $4.49 a gallon, I guess for regular unleaded. Last week, it was $3.89. Monday, that's just 5 days ago, it was $3.68. This morning, $3.48. Wow. That's a 22% drop. How come when I go tank up, it's $4.40? Like, it's been $4.40 now for weeks. And yes, I go to Cumbies. Okay, I don't want to be, called a traitor. So Cumbies. I go to Cumbies, and at my Cumbies, to be exact, it's $4.39. And it's been $4.39 for 3 weeks now, easy. So I don't know if they're gouging just in my area, or there's something about Rentham, Foxborough, that the reason the gas is much higher than in Stoughton. But whatever it is, I'll tell you this, it's not $3.48. That I guarantee you. Okay, let's go right back to Tom in New Hampshire. Tom, Mike kind of cut you off a tad early. You were saying we should have left yesterday. This is none of our business. Congress is the only one that can declare war. This is because European monarchs would go to war and they would raise taxes on their citizens, and they had no choice but to pay for these taxes whether they wanted the war or not, and then you got cut off. So please, Tom, pick up where you left off.
Yeah, right, Jeff. And they gave the president, they put the language declare war, not make war, so the president could repel any attacks if we were attacked and handle it that way. And like James Madison, when they did this declare war, they put it in there specifically because the executive branch was the most prone to go to war. Like one person. So that's why they put Congress as a declare war. It's all in the Constitution, and we haven't been following it since World War II. It's awful. You realize the Korean War, Congress did not declare war?
Yeah, you're right. Yes.
Truman went in there, 50,000 of our kids got killed. And North Korea was what? Still communism. They got nuclear weapons. Vietnam, the same thing. 50,000 kids got killed. Because these guys, they allow the president to do what they want. If Congress doesn't do their job, the Senate doesn't do their job.
Tom, so you think this war is illegal, I assume, right? But what you're saying, illegal and unconstitutional. Is your recommendation to the president just leave, just get out, correct?
But it's not just that, Jeff. He should have never went there. We shouldn't be going into any country, bombing any country, unless we're bombed. That's the point. We shouldn't care about nuclear weapons. Who has what? China has nuclear weapons. Russia has North Korea. Our Constitution, our republic was set up. We take care of ourselves. Period. And we don't find what this one's doing, that one's doing. That's why all our kids have been killed, and it brings down our country with all the money we spend and all the lives we lose since World War II. It's got to stop.
Mike, how much time left? All right, Tom, super quick. If Iran got a nuke, would that pose an existential threat to the world? I almost need a yes or no answer.
There's existential threats everywhere. China, North Korea, Iran. It's everywhere.
Interesting. Tom, again, thank you very, very much for that call.